And hopefully this will work. All right, I'm going to point this down here. All right, so I'm going to do a couple of things. I'm also going to pull up the chat thing and we'll get going here. So I'm going to leave the chat open. I'm going to leave the video up here. So I am going to forget at some point to keep moving the screen, the laptop down because I'm going to forget there's people on here. So if at any point I'm writing on the board and I've left these people behind, just tell me, move the screen. If you guys see anything come up on the chat, you draw my attention to it as well, and that'll work a lot better. All right, so we are exam number 2 is what we're focusing in on. I'll do my best to try to make this work for everybody across the room, but we're going to get some blank spaces in here where it'll be hard to see. We started with muscles, so let's just do that. Let's just start on muscles as our first topic here. Functions of muscles. Heat, stabilization, right? All that good kind of stuff. I would say functions and characteristics. What do I mean by characteristics? Anybody want to list a couple? What's that? Yeah, like how they're going to make up, we're going to build all that out. But if I said a muscle's ability, like if I said stretch a muscle, right? Like your tricep or something like that, stretch your tricep, stretch your bicep. What is that characteristic? Elasticity, right? Now, as soon as you stop stretching, it returns to its original shape. What's that? Contractibility would be shortening it up. Then we can, that's contractility. Stretching it out, elasticity bounces back into its original shape, right? It also has the excitability, the ability to receive a nervous impulse. So it's probably been a little while, but I mean, look for at least one question on those and you should be good. Then we can go into those characteristics, Augusta, you were talking about there. Let's do this. I'm going to do the muscle, and then I'm going to put a color around it. What does this color represent? Somebody's whispered it to someone else. Yeah, that's your epimysium, right? What's underneath the muscle? Next layer. Fascicle, perimysium, and then what's the next layer? The muscle fiber. And so, yeah, we need a couple of different colors. I don't know if orange is going to work. Orange works. What's the orange represent again? Perimysium. And then what surrounds the muscle fiber? Is the endomysium. Yeah, feel free to, some folks do when the room isn't so full. You just want to move as I move, it totally works that way as well. Really quick, what type of connective tissue for epimysium? Dense, irregular, but when we go to the fascicle, it's dense. But what's up with the endomysium? Areolar, lots of fluid. That's when you use your muscles a lot. You really feel the fluid build up and all that kind of stuff around your muscles. When we get into the muscle fiber, what's unique about it? That's the cell, right? So a cell, any other cell, is going to have a bunch of organelles. What are some of the organelles of a muscle fiber? What? Say them again. Sarcoplasmic reticulum, right? Sarcoplasmic reticulum, what is it housing? Calcium, which we know we're going to come back to later. Give me some other organelles. Sarcoplasm, sarcolema, right? Then there's lots of mitochondria, extra mitochondria, multiple nuclei. So there's a lot going on inside this cell. It's a really important cell. One of the organelles in this muscle fiber that we haven't listed yet, anybody know? It's the next layer, if you will. What's the next layer? The myofibril. A myofibril is an organelle. It's an organelle. And then inside that myofibril, that's where we're going to find the myofilaments. I know I'm getting way down here. So if you're struggling to see, all I've got up here, right, is muscles, fascicles, muscle fibers. Each one of those is surrounded by a different color, epimysium, perimysium, endomysium. Then under the muscle fiber, I've got a lot of organelles. Sarcoplasmic reticulum, sarcoplasm, sarcolema, and the myofibril. And then under the myofibril, I tried to break it down. Under the myofibril, set apart from it, is where you're going to find your myofilaments. What are your two myofilaments? actin and myosin. But I'm going to bring the myofibril up here. We need to talk about that myofibril in a different way. Myofibril in a different way. What are some different parts of a myofibril? Yeah, good. We got Z line. What's our other line? M line. Sarcomere. Now, if you look at those slides, you may be tempted to rattle off A band, I band, right? All that kind of stuff. But you remember, we're not really going to go there. There's your key structures of a myofibril that you do actually need to know. So Zoom folks, I apologize, maybe hard to see. I'm just breaking down the parts of a myofibril here. Z line, talk to me about it. Distance, or what, sorry, what's its anchoring point? Yeah, actin, right? My torso's the Z line, and my arms are the different myofilaments, the actin filaments. And then M line anchors what? Myosin, sarcomere, Z line to Z line. Give me something else. Yeah, fundamental unit or functional unit of a muscle. Anything else? It is that Z line to Z line, and it's the sliding or moving part. I know that's the same thing. It made some of you are like, that's the same thing as functional unit, fundamental. But I'm making sure we understand what that means. The Z lines are going to slide and move. So the sarcomere is the moving portion. It's always the part that's going to move. Your M lines, your A bands, all the different kind of stuff. That stuff's not moving and sliding. It's the sarcomere that's changing its shape. So the actin is going to move. Let's do something. Let's talk about different parts here. This is where it gets tricky. I don't really know how to draw this out. We could do it. We can do it. We can do it. I'll just get there. I'll make it happen. Here is the myofibril, right? And we've got our Z lines like so. So as a result, we've got actin filaments coming off of them. If you haven't drawn this yourself, you really should. Here is your what? What's going to come next? M line, right? And what do these red lines represent? That's your myosin. And you'll notice the actin and the myosin, they're going to overlap with one another. We want them to do that. When you draw, sketch this out, I've tried to leave some space for one of these. I know it always looks like you're drawing something else or whatever, but you get what we're trying to go for. I'm drawing two different, what's on the end of this myosin? The myosin heads, right? We want those myosin heads to interact with this. And so if we draw this, I don't know, a little bit better, maybe. Here's the actin filament. What are some things we need to draw on the actin filament? What does it house? What does it contain? Troponin. Heard that one first, so I'll draw it first. Let me draw a couple of different troponin structures. What's the other structure we need on here? Tropomyosin. Tropomyosin is going to do something like this right here. And you'll notice I drew the tropomyosin in this little pink color. I drew it going through the troponin or the troponin, right? I drew it going through there for a reason. So we want the myosin. Here's the myosin. Here's the structures coming off the myosin. We want those to interact and bind to the actin, but it can't. Because what's blocking it again? Tropomyosin is. So how do we get that tropomyosin moved out of the way? What do we need to come in? Calcium. So I'm writing, sorry, let me catch you guys up really quick. If you're far away, I know this is probably tough. That's probably not helping. I've drawn part of the myofibril up here, showing you the Z line to Z line, and maybe we want to do something like this right here on our drawing. Make sure you know that's the sarcomere. There's our sarcomere, there's our Z lines, there's our M line. It's important you understand what does the myofibril look like. And now we're just going to zoom in on one key part right here, zoom in on it right down here. And we're looking at, here's your actin. The black line represents the actin. I've drawn two little blue snowman-like things, troponin. Maybe you want to label all those things. Then what was the pink string-like structure one more time? Tropomyosin. That's that structure that we've got going on in there. So now we've got calcium. Calcium coming down and binding to what again? Troponin. Whatever you prefer there. That's going to move the tropomyosin. And now let's go ahead and put those up here, right? So this all starts with calcium binds to troponin. Then troponin moves tropomyosin. Now, when the tropomyosin is moved, what happens next? Yeah, it's gonna move. It's gonna reveal those binding sites, and who's gonna bind to it? Myosin is gonna bind to actin. What do we call that? Cross bridge. Notice what I'm doing though. It would have been a lot easier for me just to put cross bridge formation. Why am I putting myosin binds to actin? Because you're going to miss it. It's going to be on the exam. I'm going to put, instead of cross bridge, I'm just going to say, hey, which of these things are involved in the sliding filament model? And as soon as I just put myosin binds to actin, you go, I didn't know to select that one. I'm going to say, why? We'll talk about it. I was looking for cross bridge. What is a cross bridge? It's when myosin binds to actin. So make sure you understand that. Go ahead and put cross bridge formation out here. That's fine. That's great. When we form a cross bridge, myosin binds to actin, what comes next? So we call that the power stroke, but this is where myosin moves actin. Or actin slides down. It gets pulled down. That's the power stroke phase. Then who's going to come in and bind after that? ATP binds to the myosin head. And that same thing, that's where we're going to detach. Okay, so let me catch everybody up. Sorry, I keep running off and leaving. Folks can't see. I've got in black marker, calcium binds to troponin. In black, I've got troponin moves the tropomyosin. Then I switch to another color and I put myosin binds to actin. That same color, myosin moves actin, slides it down, power stroke, right? Then in the third thing in the same color, ATP binds to the myosin, and that's what's going to detach the myosin head. What's the last thing I'm going to write in this color? Myosin does what? Yep. Myosin returns, if you want to the cocked position. Why did I write these first two things in black font, and why did I put 4 different things in red? What's the red represent? That red is your sliding filament model. Those 4 things, and those 4 things only. I wish this was not connected to an HDMI cord that was really short, or I'd walk this over there and let you see it. But that's as far as I can move it. There's everything that I have. Again, I put calcium binding and I put tropomyosin being moved. I put those in a different color. Because those, while important, while a key part of a muscle contraction, they are not part of that sliding filament model, right? The 4 key steps to the sliding filament model are those in red. Questions about that? Okay. I would just have a couple more things in muscles, personally. Slow, what? Oxidative. What's my other one? Fast, glycolytic. I know most of you just have slow oxidative marathon, fast glycolytic sprinter, right? You can roll the dice if you want to, go with those. Know what the fast and slow have to do with, know what the oxidative versus glycolytic means. There's a difference between those two. And you're not wrong, right? They are different types of muscle fibers used in different ways, but just take it one step further. Make sure you understand those two. Anything else on muscles? I'm forgetting. Yeah. There were three. Why am I only putting two up here? Yeah, there was that middle slow glycolytic type of fiber, and I highlighted said, look, we've got these, and it is a bridge between these two, but I'm only gonna make you know those two. Yeah. Anything else on muscles? Yeah.
Are we gonna have to know the difference between cardiac and smooth muscles?
Cardiac and smooth. Thank you very much for that. I'll say cardiac, yes. Smooth, not as much. I just touched on it very briefly, but I really harped on something when it came to cardiac. Anybody want to remember what it was? Want to remind us? It's striated. What else? Yeah. I mean, I'm hearing it from everyone else. It's similar to skeletal. They both have striations. What are striations? Well, that's the Z lines and M lines you're seeing, the light and dark cycles, right? Which means they both have actin, they both have myosin, they both have the calcium binding. They look very, very similar. So on that question on the exam that is coming, which muscle type is described below? Right? And it starts off with striations present, actin, myosin, Z-lines, sarcomeres, all that good kind of stuff. You're going to be real tempted to be like, oh, it's skeletal muscle and move on, but pay close attention, read it all the way through. If it then comes in with gap junctions and all, the intercalated disc and autoarrhythmic functions and all that kind of stuff, then you know we're talking about cardiac. So make sure you look for that. Good catch on that. Anything else on muscles? All right. Let's go nervous system. And I'm just going to go, rather than kind of following along what we did, I'll try to do that as best I can. I'm going to try to build this out the way I would want it built out if I was the one taking the test, and I could bring in a little bit of a cheat sheet. So I'm going to do this, and let's organize our nervous system. What are our only two structures of the CNS? Brain and spinal cord. Please make sure if I just say, hey, brain, spinal cord, what organ system they belong to? Yeah. Oh, thank you. See? That's what we needed. All right. Here we go. Get my fat face out of it. CNS, PNS. Then we're going to break down the PNS how and what two divisions? Out of here, autonomic, somatic. Anybody want to jump in before I do that? I do motor sensory because you're not wrong. We could just go right into it. That's where everything is. But check this out. We're going to miss something. Well, let's go ahead and do this. I'm going to get all in on this organization here. I'm going to do sensory in blue. And I'm going to remind you that sensory goes in this direction. What is that direction? What's our term for it? Afferent or afferent. So blue is going to be our afferent or afferent, whatever you prefer. And then now I'm done with my blue marker really for the rest of this. And I'm going to go red and write motor over here. And what direction does motor come out? Efferent. Motor then can be broken down into what two divisions? Autonomic and somatic. Somatic, describe it for me really quick. Voluntary. Yeah, which muscles though? Skeletal, agree? Skeletal muscles. Autonomic, involuntary. Which muscles? Cardiac, smooth. Yeah, your viscera, if you want to put that, glands. If you think about it, anything that you don't have conscious control, that you're not voluntarily moving. And there are autonomic is broken down into what two divisions? Yeah, good. I'm going to go with parasympathetic first. Parasympathetic, sympathetic. What do we call our parasympathetic? Rest, digest, sympathetic, fight or flight. You get the idea, right? That's what I put on those two. Now, you may want more. That's fine. Build those out a little bit more. But what I would do in my notes is get that in there small. And I know some of you are like, well, you already gave us a table. I'm just going to print that out. That's fine. Right? Whatever you want to do. You want to print the whole table and that's one whole page for you? Just that? No problem. But If you'll do it differently, and you'll make it small enough, abbreviate it, put it in there, cram it into one small part of a page, then right underneath it, you've got your CNS, PNS structures all organized. I'll show you why that's going to be advantageous. So let's really quick. I don't want to draw. I'll draw it. There's my. I'm just drawing a stupid axon, right? Sorry, a neuron. So there's my little neuron there. We're going to do two different colors. Let's do this. I'm going to draw these little red circles around the neuron cell body. What are these cells that surround a neuron cell body called? Astrocytes. If that neuron is where? That neuron lives in your brain or spinal cord, those are astrocytes. But if that neuron lives somewhere out here in your arm, right, those are what? Satellite cells. Okay, I'm going to go different color here. We're going to do little blue things surrounding the axon. What are these blue cells called? Oligodendrocytes, if CNS, and what'd you say for the PNS? Schwann cells. Cool. Now we're going to take, instead of one, this is the difference, right? Everything we talked about so far in our goofy picture, we got up there, whatever works for you, right? We just had one neuron. And we said if it's one cell that binds to the cell body, that's a astrocyte or satellite cell. And then if it goes down the axon, it's an oligodendrocyte or Schwann cell, right? Now we're not going to do just one neuron, and we're not talking about one cell. This would be me saying, hey, can like 5 of you come up here? And then we all stand next to each other and be like, okay, our heads are the cell bodies. If we saran wrap all of our heads together, right? That's what we're talking about here. It's not one neuron. It's a big cluster of multiple neuron cell body. What is that called? Nuclei. If we're in the what? CNS. What if we're in the PNS? Ganglia. But neurons aren't just cell body. They all have long axons. And if we bundle up these axons, get the idea here, right? Each one's got whatever. If we bundle up numerous axons, what are those referred to? Tracks. If we're where? CNS, but they are nerves. If we're out in the PNS. Then, I know what's coming. I'm going to draw it over here just so it's larger because this is where things do start breaking down a little bit for us. And we're going to use this. But I would still put that right here, right? The next picture I'm going to draw, bury it right down there under the CNS, PNS. And I'll still try to do that. Here's your CNS, PNS table, still going for you. But I'm going to draw, what am I adding to this? Yeah, I'm doing spinal cord structures, and I always try to draw something like this right here. And we've got those coming off of both sides, whatever we've got going on there. Put our PNS further out. You'll get the idea here. Everywhere I'm putting a red circle, what are those? Those are horns, right? So I'm under the CNS, and I'm writing horns. But we'll just leave that for now, right? Then let's go with our blue, where I'm putting these blue circles. Those are what? Roots. Horns are CNS. They're in the spinal cord. Roots are PNS. They're close to the spinal cord. They're going to feed information into that spinal cord, but they are outside of it. So those are our roots there. Now we need to label this spinal cord. How are we going to label each side of it? What would you say? Yeah, we can go anterior, posterior, but how else are we going to label that? Ventral dorsal. So I'm going to put both of those up here. I've got anterior ventral, posterior dorsal. I would put both just so you're safe. As far as any question goes, I almost always give you both. I mean to anyway. Not on there, you can ask me. But on the exam, when it says, hey, which one of these best describes your ventral, I usually try to put in parentheses anterior root, right, or horn or whatever it is. But I would label both just in case. So what's the difference between your, well, I guess we can go with horns are over here first. What's your dorsal horn? What type of information? Sensory, right? Your dorsal side is sensory, and there's a dorsal horn and a dorsal root, and both of them deal with sensory information. There's also a ventral, and it deals with what? Motor. And I know I missed a real great opportunity there to organize this. Should we do it? What do you think about it? We've done it so far. Sensory is in blue. Sorry if you guys have already done this. So sorry. But let's see this. Let's go all in. I think it's gonna work. I think it's gonna be good. Horns, it's still horns. I've not changed. I didn't get anything wrong, I don't think. Just reorganize. Okay, so our dorsal side deals with what information? Sensory. And we've been doing sensory so far. There's our sensory, it's in blue. Our dorsal root and our dorsal horn both deal with sensory, and our ventral deals with girth, ventral root, ventral horn. Okay, now we can trace this along. We're going to do this pathway through here, right? We're going to show information coming into your spinal cord. So, what color am I going to use first? Blue. Why blue? It's sensory. And what I'm going to do right underneath this is try to also sketch it out. So, I'm showing a blue arrow coming in. And by the way, what's it traveling on right here? What's this little structure coming off? That's a nerve. That's actually a proper nerve, right? I'm going to draw this. That structure is a nerve. What are these two, though? Those are roots. You're like, aren't they the same thing? They're real close. I'm going to show you how they're different, right? Because, spoiler alert, I suppose you should know this anyway. Red. This is what your nerve is going to do. I just put a blue arrow going this way, and I put a red arrow going this way. That's how we know that's a nerve. I can't do that on these roots. I'll show you why here in just a second, but I'm going to try to organize this. I would get this. First of all of this is going to be under your CNS, PNS. We're organizing all this together. And then here's what I'm going to do in addition to that. I'm going to put your hand or a receptor, right? Some type of sensory receptor. I got a blue arrow. That's blue because it's sensory. You put your hand on something hot, a blue message, a sensory receptor, right, is going to send a message onto your nerve. All right, right over here, I'm going to do this blue arrow. What word am I going to put next to that blue arrow? Afferent. Afferent. That's an afferent message. You're like, how was we supposed to know that? Well, number one, it's blue and it's traveling towards something. It's going in. We're going to go from your nerve to where? Here's the blue. Where are we going? Dorsal. Kind of mix these up. We'll go this way. This is what we're doing. This is that blue message. It's now on your dorsal root. Dorsal root. It goes from your dorsal root to your what? Dorsal horn. Goes from your dorsal horn up what? Definitely your spinal cord. Give me something that travels through your spinal cord. The same structure. What's a nerve in your CNS? Yeah, it's a tract. We're traveling up a tract. Same thing as a nerve, right? Same thing as a nerve. It just happens to be in your spinal cord. And then we're going to go to your brain. And here's what I'm going to do. Put part of brain in blue, part of brain, stretch it out into red. Because now your brain is going to send what out? Yeah, here are two good words I like, a motor impulse or an efferent impulse. It's going to travel right back down that same tract that we just came up. And from that tract, what are we going to hit next? Your ventral horn. So we've got it in the picture so far, we had it going pretty well, right? We had here's that sensory impulse traveling on a nerve, goes to your dorsal root into your dorsal horn, and then we ran it up a tract. We processed it up there in the brain, and the brain sent a motor impulse back down the tract, and now we're here. Is everybody good on that? While we're on the ventral horns? So your ventral horn is carrying motor information. And by the way, we're doing this. What word am I putting next to this red arrow? Efferent, efferent, whatever you prefer there. From the ventral horn to what? The ventral root. From the ventral root to where? To a nerve. And then from the nerve to, yeah, I got like muscle. You could go with gland. You could go with a lot of different things. So the list that I've got here starts with, in blue, your hand touches a receptor, right? Your hand's touching a receptor that travels on a nerve towards your central nervous system. How do we know it's going towards? That's what an afferent message is. Afferent fibers always travel towards your brain. So it's traveling on a nerve, and as soon as it gets almost to the spinal cord, we have to decide, are we going to travel and send that message to this side of the spinal cord or to this side of the spinal cord? Right? We've got to make a decision on what side we're dealing with. What side does sensory go to? Back here to the dorsal. And then we hit this track and we run up to the brain. We process it, and your brain goes, okay, I got you. We should move our hand. And the brain sends a what impulse? Motor on what type of fiber? Efferent, E, right? Traveling down what side of the spinal cord? Yeah, down a track on your ventral side. And as soon as it gets to where it needs to go, stopping point for this muscle, then we leave out the spinal cord. How? From your ventral horn to your ventral root back onto a nerve, spinal nerve, doesn't really matter, and we go to a muscle, and then we move our hand. We take a moment. That's pretty badass, isn't it? I mean, like, you didn't know any of that before you came into this class. Now you know what's happening when you go, oh my God, that was really hot. Think of how fast that happens. Sensory impulse travels on a nerve, right? And at some point, you're going to be like, actually, that wasn't that much. Now I know all the nerves and I know all the, like, you're going to put that shit together before you're done here at that state. But you've got this. You understand this. When you put your hand on something hot, you've got the whole pathway in. We know where it's going to go in the brain, too, by the way. And you've got the whole pathway back out again. Pretty damn cool. I think every once in a while you should stop and appreciate those things. But there we are. We've got that together. There's our pathway. If you've got your CNS PNS table organized in a really nice small spot on a page, underneath that CNS PNS all built out together, then you can put this pathway next to that. And which, by the way, really quick, we've not been doing CNS and PNS in different colors. But if we did, talk to me about that. Where's what is your hand receptor nerve? What are these things? They're PNS, right? When does it change from PNS to CNS? Right at the horn. So you could do this. Sorry for the sound effects. There's that. What does green represent again? PNS. Then we'll switch over to orange. Horn to where? Horn to horn, right? All those structures. Sorry, this is a better. This is a better orange. Horn to horn. Dorsal horn, tracks, brain, track, back to a horn. All that CNS. And then we can go right back to roots, nerves, muscles, PNS. Now you can double check. When I say, okay, really quick, here's a whole list of structures. Tell me which of these are PNS structures. Double up. You've got them right here. right? I can give you a linked list of different things, and you can check it in two different ways really, really quick. Satellite, nuclei, satellite cell nuclei, ganglia, and cranial nerve number 10. Which of those are PNS structures? Satellite? I know, I don't even know what I just listed, but help me out. What else? Anybody else remember anything I said? It's just the satellite cell? I said nuclei. Is that one CNS, PNS? CNS? What else did I say? Yeah, I said cranial nerve number 10. PNS. Why? It's cranial nerve. All nerves, right? All nerves. I don't know where I'm trying to point to. All nerves, PNS. But it's cranial nerve number whatever. It's spinal nerve. It just means it's going to attach to those. Be shocked at how many people are still going to miss that one. But I'm going to ask you that. All nerves are PNS. Even if it's cranial nerve number, whatever, doesn't matter. It's a PNS structure. So a great way to, if you organize this just right, you can kind of double check those things. Then what I would do on the same page, if you can make this work, somewhere on that page, give yourself a really good picture of the brain. Good picture of the brain. And then let's organize that brain really quick. I'm going to go Roman numerals here and start with cerebrum. But then that cerebrum is going to get broken down. How do we break down the cerebrum? By the way, what's the cerebrum? What part of the brain? It's in this big wrinkly portion, all the outer stuff, right? Big chunk of the brain. How do we organize it? Yeah, we did motor areas. B is sensory areas and association. You. Okay, let's go with, ooh. You guys got to catch me, see, before I do this. Why am I erasing these? What am I about to do? Red. Motor. Give me my 4 motor areas of the cerebrum. Primary, motor, premotor, Broca's, frontal eye field. You guys are faster than I am. Frontal eye field. Let's do them really quick. Which one is speech? Broca's. Which one? What's premotor? They're primary and premotor are real similar. In fact, they're right up against one another. Primary is essentially all of your skeletal muscle movement, right? All your skeletal, I did this, I did the wrong way. All of your skeletal muscle movement, except for premotor is what again? Yeah, typing, writing, musical instruments, some type of sport activity you do over and over again. Learned repetitious motor behavior. Oh, thank you. You move the camera to the bottom. Yeah. Gotcha. There you go. And by the way, for folks on Zoom especially, but also everybody in here, I'll take, at the end, just come up and take all the pictures you want, but I'll also take pictures of the whiteboard and post them on As You Learn. So if you are missing anything, it's not a problem. All right, I'll get that as low as possible so we can still see this. Okay, so we're good. Now I'm going to do sensory. And we got how many? 7. Here we go. Primary, somatosensory. What's that?
Size, shape, texture.
Yeah, everybody in the room right now is using yours. Some of you are holding a pen and you know the weight, the texture, right? The feel, the temperature of that thing. All of that's primary somatosensory. Your hands on the table, knowing where the table is, that touch, that sense of texture, shape, all that good kind of stuff. All right, rattle off a few more. Auditory, visual, vestibular. What'd you say? Gustatory. What's gustatory? Taste. What's vestibular? Balance, right? What else? Visceral sensory area. I'm missing one. Olfactory. Good. I caught something that you guys are still doing. We all do, right? But right now is a good time to try to break this. When as soon as I turn around and say, "Hey, vestibular area," I didn't see the whole room, but almost everybody on this side of the room, I saw go and look down. If you are still from this point on, you are studying by looking at what you have written down. You are missing a critical part of the learning aspect, right? And so next time I go, hey, what cranial nerve connects to your visceral sensory area? Vagus nerve, right? And if you try to, if I pointed one of you out and said, yeah, I won't do this. It makes me more uncomfortable than you. But if I pointed one of you and said, what is it? What cranial nerve? You going, oh shit, I don't know, and trying to rack your brain, that is a huge part of the learning process. But if I go, hey, what cranial nerve? And you go flip, and look for it, you are losing out on a really neat chance. So close it all up at some point. You don't have to do it tonight, but close it up and try to force your hand. Force yourself to list all 12 cranial nerves. And if you know you're not going to get them right, that's fine. That's part of it. Figure out what you don't know, then go back and look it up. And I promise you'll learn it faster. So there's your 7 sensory areas. What were your 3 association areas? Yeah, anterior, posterior, limbic. Let's do each one of those. Anterior. What does it do? Okay. Yeah, it does a lot. So I'm hearing a lot of different things. But what really helps is, well, find something that we did. This was I showed you the picture of a woman, who lost her husband in Gaza and be like, what should we do? Again, not trying to flare anything up, but I'm trying to get you to go, oh shit. Okay, I get that. All the feelings, is this right? Is this wrong? How do I feel about this? Do I like the president? Do I not like the president? I don't care. I don't give a shit how you feel about things. But you're using your anterior association area when you think about those really complex things, right? Posterior, 2 words. Yes. Faces and places is what I use, but yeah, patterns, places, patterns, faces, whatever it is. This was the pixelated, things where your brain puts it back together and goes, I know who that is, right? Or recognizing where you are. Limbic system, give me 3 things. Emotion, smell, memory. Memory, smell, emotion. This is you're at your grandma's house and you smell something, and you're like, oh, all the emotional stuff of remembering what it was like making cookies or whatever with your grandma. I don't know what you did. That's what I did. Cerebrum, number 2. What's our next big area of the brain? Yeah, we went diencephalon. There were 3 structures of the diencephalon. What were they? Thalamus, hypothalamus, epithalamus. I like to put thalamus in the middle because then we can put the epi on top of it where it goes and the hypo below it where it goes. So let's do those in order. I've got diencephalon and then I've just got epi number 1, thalamus number 2, hypothalamus number 3. Give me epithalamus. What comes to mind? Yeah, pineal gland, but what does that mean? Sleep wake, right? Sleep wake cycle. This is your light dark cycle, and why a lot of us are struggling with it. We'll talk about it more. Endocrine, but sleep wake, thalamus. We're close on that one, but it wasn't hypothalamus, right? Hypothalamus is homeostasis. H for hypothalamus, H for homeostasis, right? And I'll get you some practice questions on that one here in a minute. But thalamus, what? Sensation. What about it? Yeah, I got you. That's cool. Almost all of your all your sensations come into and through your thalamus, and it relays them on. It's the relay station. That's the words that I use when I put it up there. Your thalamus was a relay station. A relay station for what? All of that sensory information. The temperature of the room is right now running through your thalamus, and your thalamus is trying to decide, should I send that to the brain and make the hypothalamus aware? Right? And if I started cranking down the temperature without you knowing, it got colder and colder and colder. Eventually, your thalamus would stop ignoring it and go, hey, hypothalamus, I think you should be aware of this, right? That's what all the sensory is doing. It's relaying through your thalamus. Some of it gets relayed on, some of it gets filtered out. What's after the diencephalon? Where do we go after that? Brain stems. Where we next? What are your 3 structures of the brain stem? Midbrain, pons, And you're good. Medulla or medulla, I don't really care. Medulla oblongata. What did the midbrain do? What do you need to know? What do you need to know from the midbrain? All right, good. Nothing, right? Now, we talked about periaqueductal gray matter. We talked about red nucleus, all these different type of things. But I mentioned, hey, look, for now, brain stem, we're going to keep it pretty simple in the midbrain. Let's go with that. Pons, though. It is a big autonomic, right, that regulates your breathing, specifically that rate of breathing. Your rate of breathing for the pons. Then the medulla. Three things for the medulla. I'm going to write under medulla. I'll get my hair. I'm going to wait here a second. I'm going to write A, B, and C. Anybody know any of the three things for the medulla? There's a cardiovascular unit that goes with it. I'm going to add that to it. Respiratory center and reflexes. So under medulla, whatever you prefer there. Right, so I've got midbrain, pons, medulla. Under medulla, I've got A, B, and C. Your medulla has a big cardiovascular unit, and it's constantly increasing or decreasing. If I hit a really loud sound that blared over the speakers right now, your medulla, via what division of the peripheral nervous system? What part of the nervous system would it go to greatly increase your heart rate? Your autonomic division, what division of the autonomic? Sympathetic. Your sympathetic division there, your fight or flight would be triggered by a really loud noise. Your medulla tells that division, hey, increase heart rate. And then after we sit here for a little while, what would your parasympathetic do? Communicate with the medulla to bring back your heart rate back down to where it should be, right? It has a respiratory center, mostly depth of breathing. So if I said really quick, let's take a breather, deep breath. That's your medulla, right? That's your medulla. And it helps when you do that, it also helps reset your heart rate, resets your parasympathetic division, all that good kind of stuff. Reflexes were things like sneezing, coughing, vomiting, gross stuff. All right. And then what was the last part of the brain that we dealt with? Cerebellum. And I'm going to put three things underneath it as well. Your cerebellum, if you remember, takes sensory input. Sensory input. It develops, I'm just going to put one word here, blueprint as number 2, and then motor output is number 3. So for cerebellum, I've got number 1, it takes sensory input. Number 2, it takes that sensory input and it develops a blueprint. A blueprint of what? What is its whole function, purpose? Coordination. Coordinated muscle movement. And then when it finds like, hey, this is the plan, this is what we should do, it sends the motor output out. The example I gave was if I took this marker and threw it to one of you, right? The sensory input is all that stuff coming in. Here's the marker, here's how fast it's traveling, it's this far off. And it takes all that sensory input and it develops a plan. Take your arm, right arm, well, you know what you do with your left arm, it'd be terrible. Put it this high, put your hand, open it about this much, right? Put it right here. And then when we say go, close it, and you should catch the marker. That's the cerebellum. That's what it does for us, right? All that coordinated muscle movement, sensory input in, develops a plan, sends it back out. There's your brain. Sort of. That's a lot of parts of the brain. If you can get that, either on the same page as all your CNS, PNS stuff, or that's probably a full page for a lot of people. On the back side of that same page, if you get your brain all organized, along with, what are we going to go to next? Cranial nerves. If you can get your brain and cranial nerves in the same space, really going to help. I'm going to have to write this kind of small, but I'll lead on to this other page, this other whiteboard if I can. Moving it down. Cranial nerves, let's do them. Number 1, what is it? Olfactory. Sensory, motor, both. Sensory, what's it going to process? Smell. What area of the cerebrum processes smell? We know where to go right now, right? And if you got this organized really well, and the question on the exam is cranial nerve is best associated with what part of your cerebrum? You've already told me cranial nerve number one is what? What type of nerve? Sensory. So don't go blue, don't go, or sorry, red, or don't go green. You already know it's sensory, and all of our sensory stuff so far has been in blue. Look over here and go, what sensory area? Cranial nerve number one goes to where in the cerebrum? Yeah, our olfactory cortex, right? Your olfactory nerve goes to your olfactory cortex. So I'm adding a new column. The table I gave you guys was just name, sensory motor both, function. I'm just adding another column out here, right? That's what I'm going to do. Again, you do you. Cranial nerve number two, what is it? Optic, sensory, motor both, sensory, effect or function, vision. Where are we going in the cerebrum? Go to your blue. There's your visual cortex, right? These match up. Visual cortex. Number three, oculomotor. What type of nerve? You know what? I'm missing once again. Catch me on these. Okay. Here's all I'm doing. Smell, vision. Okay. What type of nerve? Motor. What does it do? What does it do? I heard a couple eyes, but I'm hearing people get it more correct. Opens the eyes, right? Dilates the pupils. Opens the eyes, dilates the pupils. What two divisions of your PNS is this working with? Opens the eyes, dilates the pupils. What part of your PNS are we in? Somatic and autonomic. Pretty cool, isn't it? You're like, I don't think I needed that. I've got enough to deal with already. But I just take a moment, right? Yes, it's a motor nerve, but check it out. Motor can go to a lot of different places. You opening your eyes, that's somatic. Voluntary. If I say close your eyes, now open your eyes. That's you. That's your somatic division. But if I said now dilate your pupils for me really quick, you're like, do that. You couldn't. It's autonomic, right? So where are we going in the cerebrum? Frontal eye field. We're not going in the blue. We're in the red, right? Frontal eye field. Frontal eye. You get the idea. Number 4. What is it? Trochlear. Trochlear. What is it? Motor. What does it control? Eye movement how? Up, right? Eye movement up. What part of the cerebrum? Okay, I think it's just that easy of a question. So I'm going to assume it's that, and not that you're sick of me asking questions. What's after trochlear? Trigeminal. What am I going to put here? What type of nerve? Sensory and motor, right? S and M. Or if you want to put B in a different color, I don't care what you want to do. What is its function? What is it? Give me sensory first, because I've got that one. TPPT. What's TPPT stand for? Touch, pain, pressure, temperature, right? Then what's its motor? What do we have listed on the table? Yeah, moving different parts of the face. I'm going to put mandibular. So, what part of the cerebrum am I going to put? Yeah, that's the thing. I'm not going to. I'm not going to. But if you want to, you can. Here's the thing. Like I could probably go with primary motor cortex on this one. I could probably go primary somatosensory, right, for the other. But it's a little bit vague, and it's so big. There's kind of too much. So I'm gonna leave that off to indicate I'm not gonna ask you about, hey, what nerve, trigeminal nerve is best associated with what part of the brain. Little too vague for me. So number 6. What's our next nerve? Yeah. Abducens or abducens, I don't particularly care. Sensory motor, both. Some say marry money, but yeah. What does it do? I got eye, but what do I mean? Yeah, there we go. Side to side eye movement. So it's another frontal eye field. If you do not see this question coming on the exam, it's on you, right? Which cranial nerves are best associated with eyeball movement or your frontal eye field or something like that? Select all that apply. You better get that one, right? They're up there for you. Now they're organized and everything. VII. Okay, what comes after abducens or abducens? Facial. Facial's a big nerve, so it's what? Sensory and motor. Sensory, there is some of the TPPT. Facial expressions, right? I might put up there something like that, but big nerve, vague. We're going to leave it like that. Good old number 8. Who's number 8? Yeah, if you go through that mnemonic, you're on an A, right? You might be laying on acoustic, but the proper name for this one, vestibulocochlear. I'm out of space. Blue or red? Blue, thank you. What's it processing? Yeah, hearing and what? Balance. So, what 2 parts of the brain are we going to go to? Your vestibular cortex and your auditory area. Here. Auditory cortex and what else I can do visually. Okay, I'm getting confused. X. What cranial nerve is next? What is it? Glosso, yeah. Shorthanded on that one. Sensory motor, both? Good. I'll wait you guys out. Need to. Sensory and motor. And you could do several different things here. Give me a sensory function for glossopharyngeal. Big taste perception, right? What part of the brain deals with taste perception? Gustatory. That one over there. Now there is some red function on this one as well. Swallowing we talked about on this one. Primary motor cortex, but several other things involved. So we'll leave that one as is. Number 10. What is it? Yeah, V for Vegas, V for viscera. Sensory and motor, both. Really, I'm just going to put viscera. And I know that's probably vague, but it's meant to be, right? Now, sensory. Where might your vagus nerve be sending sensory information in the brain? Where might the vagus nerve be sending sensory information if it's going to the cerebrum? Check out your sensory areas, visceral sensory area, right? Your visceral sensory area is definitely associated with your vagus nerve. Then once it gets there, it might process it and may send motor input back via your autonomic nervous system, but we're going to leave that one as is. We're almost there. XI, number 11. What is it? You land on an A if you're doing the mnemonic, but it's your spinal accessory. And your spinal accessory is what? Sensory motor? Motor. Dealing with what? That was my favorite one. What does it do? Show it to me. You know it? No, I don't know. Turn the head, shrug the shoulders, right? And I would go with primary. motor cortex on that one. That works. That one. And then finally, XII number 12 is what? Ends on an H. Hypoglossal. What does that term actually mean? Below the tongue, right? Below the tongue, sensory motor, both motor, tongue, movement, as well as some swallowing. What area of the cerebrum might you put with your hypoglossal? What motor area of the cerebrum is tongue movement, speech, kind of stuff? Yeah, your Broca's area, right? Broca's area. So now you build all this out properly. You take the time to make this look good and get it all organized, and it's not scattered out across God knows how many pages in your notes, but you've got one piece of paper with all your CNS and PNS, and you flip that piece of paper over, and it's your brain and cranial nerves on the other side. You are good. You are set. You are solid. I'm not guarantee you know 100 or anything like that, but you've got a lot of ways to check these questions. Right? Which of the following best describes your ganglia? Where are you going? Yeah, at least know where it is. There's your ganglia, right? We've got our ganglia because it's a CNS PNS thing over here, and you've got it. You go, okay. If I'm using the method, he told me to cover up the answers. I'm covering them up. What describes your ganglia? I know it's a PNS structure, and I can double check. Yeah, it's where we cluster up a whole bunch of neuron cell bodies, and then you uncover, right? Oh, PNS associated with the PNS cluster of neuron cell bodies. Cranial nerve number 8 is best associated with what areas of the cerebrum? Yeah, you got 2, right? You've got 2. And you can do it just off this table alone. There's cranial nerve number 8. Change your Roman numerals to normal numbers if you want to. And I've already told you, it's your vestibular cortex, your auditory. Double check it. Run back over to the brain and be like, let me just make sure I know what he's talking about on that one. Yeah, it should definitely be sensory because it's a sensory nerve. And then maybe you want to have a few notes next to each one of these and double check. Oh yeah, my vestibular cortex was about balance. My auditory area was about hearing, and you've got it really well organized in that way. What area of the cerebrum processes smell, links them to emotions, and ties them back to memories? Limbic, right? And then I wouldn't ask you, but if I asked a hard follow-up question about, and then what other areas of the cerebrum is it pulling from? You should be able to go, oh, smell is olfactory. Memories are hippocampus. That one off, didn't we? We could throw that one up here. Under the limbic, I'm going to put a couple of key structures here. We talked about the hippocampus briefly. And we talked about what other structure under the limbic system. What gives you emotional richness or awareness? Fear, mostly. Yeah, your amygdala. Big. I can't spell. You get the idea. Amygdala, or your amygdaloid body. So you may want to add that under the limbic system. Emotional awareness, all that good kind of stuff. Then, last but not least, special senses was all about 2 things. We started today with the eye, and we did our 3 different tunics. So we have our fibrous tunic, and there were 2 key structures. I'll put them up here really quick for you. We just did them. Sclera and cornea. Then we did the vascular tunic. And we mainly did the choroid body. We added the iris to it. And then we did the nervous tunic. And that was the retina. And under the retina, I'm going to put 2 quick cell types. What are your 2 photoreceptor cells you need to know? Cones and rods. So there's the eye. Real quick version of what we did today. We haven't finished this one out, but I would do the same thing on the ear. Your external ear was your pinna or pinnae. and your external acoustic. I'm done writing that. Meatus. Number 2 is the middle ear. I'm going to go ahead and add it on here, but I'm going to put the tympanum or the tympanic membrane. Sorry, probably way down here now. That's about as good as I can do, I think, with the laptop. And then we'll finish these, and then I'll give you a whole bunch of practice questions relating these as well. Your ear ossicles, ear bones, if you prefer. There are 3 of them. The round or oval window was in there. And then we're going to go to your, what we haven't covered yet, your inner ear. And there's 2 key structures. Anybody know what they are? Cochlea and vestibule. Your cochlea and your vestibule. So all I've got over here is under the eye, fibrous tunic, sclera cornea. Under vascular tunic, choroid and iris. Under the nervous tunic, retina. And under the retina, I've got rods and cones. Ear, external ear, pinna and external acoustic meatus. Under the middle ear, tympanic membrane, your ear ossicles, ear bones, 3 of them. Round window, and under inner, cochlea and vestibule. Your structures, anatomical structures of the inner ear are best associated with what cranial nerve? Your structures of the inner ear, what are they? Cochlea, vestibule. What cranial nerve are they best associated with? Vestibulocochlear. It's in the name, right? And then what part of the cerebrum are they also associated with? Vestibular cortex and auditory area. I promise you, I know these seem tough, but if you get this organized, a lot of these you can just check off really, really quick. What structure, anatomical structure of the eye is best associated with cranial nerve number 2? What structure of the eye is best associated with cranial nerve number 2? What's cranial nerve number 2? Optic. Processes what? Where do we process vision? Yeah, some people might be like, so what is it, sclera? Is it corn? Well, your optic nerve isn't going to attach to your sclera, right? It's not going to attach to your iris, the colored portion. Where does it attach to? Down in the retina, right? So your retina is called your nervous tunic for a reason. It connects to your optic nerve, and then we feed that to what part of the brain? Yeah, the visual area of the cerebrum. So there's going to be multiple questions just like that. What cranial nerve, what part of the brain, and then what other structure in the body? If I said myofibrils, fascicles, and sarcomeres are best associated with what division of your nervous system? One more time. Myofibrils, fascicles, and sarcomeres are best associated with what division of your nervous system? Before you answer that one, you guys have already gotten it right. But when I say what division of the nervous system, what are you guys seeing without looking at the board? You're seeing your CNS, PNS built out, right? I do this, and the whole world does this all the time. We're trying to lead you where to go. What division? Any question that says what division of the nervous system, it's right there. What part of the brain? More than likely, if we're doing cranial nerves, we're going straight to the cerebrum. And it's just motor sensory. What part of the whatever, it lead you in what division? So what would you say the answer is? Your somatic division. Your somatic division, right? And the sliding filament model is best associated with what division of the nervous system? Somatic division. Why not autonomic? You control that sliding filament model. It's voluntary control, right? If I said, if I can link this one together, what muscle tissue has striations, actin, myosin, sarcomeres, and is controlled by your autonomic nervous system? You see why that's cardiac? What? I don't even know what the damn question was. I've already forgotten it. What muscle tissue, right, has Boom, boom, boom. We list off all the things that are true of both skeletal and cardiac, but is controlled by your autonomic nervous division. That's how you're going to differentiate those two. Skeletal muscles, somatic, autonomic, cardiac, smooth, glands, all that good kind of stuff. Areolar connective tissue associated with your muscles. Areolar connective tissue associated with your muscles. What is that? Right? Endomysium. I don't want to line that up to say that, hey, areolar connective tissue, go, right? Most of you are just like, I just had endomysium remembered as muscle fiber, and that's okay. But remember, it's areolar connective tissue that wraps around those muscle fibers. Give me 4 organelles of your muscle fiber. 4 organelles associated with your muscle fibers. Sarcolemma, yes or no? Is it the sarcolemma? I'm saying 4 organelles. What's an organelle, right? Things like nucleus, mitochondria, Golgi apparatus, all these different types of things. Your sarcolemma is in here. It's part of this. But where is the sarcolemma? If I had a whole muscle built out, here's the muscle, here's the fascicles, here's the where is the sarcolemma? On what structure? The muscle fiber. Is it on the muscle fiber? What are the muscle fibers made up of? Yeah, here, by the way, what's this? What did you answer, by the way? Because sarcolemma. I just heard sarco and went straight to the sarcomere. So yes, I agree with you. I agree with you on that one. If you had said sarcomere, then I'd be like, it's all the way down. So that one's on me. It's been a long day. All right. So yes, sarcolemma. What's another term for the sarcolemma? What is it? It's a plasma membrane, right? It's just a plasma membrane. It gets a fancy name because it's on muscle. Okay, sarcolemma. Give me a couple more. Sarcoplasmic reticulum houses, right? Same thing as your endoplasmic reticulum, but it gets a fancy name. Give me another organelle. Myofibrils, really big one. Think about them as organelles. I really want you to get that in your head. They are organelles that contain a bunch of other really cool things. Okay, so myofibril, what's contained on the myofibril? Actin, myosin, Z lines, M lines, sarcomere, right? And that sarcomere is that sliding portion, all that good kind of stuff. What step immediately follows myosin forming an attachment to actin? What step immediately follows myosin heads forming an attachment with actin? Power stroke, right, is where you want to go with that. But when you're studying, you do this, just go one step further. Don't just go, oh yeah, power stroke, boom. Define it. What is a power stroke? Oh, it's the myosin sliding the actin down, and make sure you're good on that. That's one step of 4. What are the 4 steps of the sliding filament model? Cross bridge, power stroke, cross bridge detachment. That's the ATP binding and doing that. And then myosin back in the cock position. But make sure you can build all those 4 out, and make sure you don't confuse the calcium myosin with the sliding filament. Those are quite different. Okay, follow me on this one. Do a couple of questions on it. I step on something really sharp. Blank message. What goes in the blanks? Sensory or afferent. Those are the same thing. A sensory or afferent message travels on a nerve, and then when entering the spinal cord goes to my, everybody get why it's dorsal, right? Dorsal root to my dorsal horn. What's the bundle of axons that it's about to travel up? A track, right? Where is it going to go in my brain if it's trying to process touch, size, shape, trying to figure out what I stepped on? Primary somatosensory. Touch, shape, size, texture, all that gives different kind of stuff. Pain's different, but we'll process that later. We're going to come back, new information. What type of signal has been sent back? Motor or efferent, efferent, whatever you prefer there. Down the track to my ventral horn, to my ventral root, back onto a nerve, to a Depends on what we're gonna do. An effector of some type, right? Could be a gland, could be a whatever it is. Look for that question. It'll probably be built out for you and there'll just be one blank, right? Instead of me asking for multiple things, I'm gonna give it all to you, say what goes right here in this blank. Get that pathway. And if you're looking where the hell I was talking about there, it's that right there, that pathway. Make sure and look for that one. Look for a question on that one. Broca's area is best associated with what cranial nerve again? Hypoglossal, and that's fine if even by the time of the exam, you're like, I'm just looking at that table that you gave. That's okay. But look, if you really want to learn these cranial nerves and parts of the brain, when you're done here and you go home, every activity and every behavior you're going to do relates back to one of these cranial nerves and parts of your brain. You're going to go home and cook, and when you look at the stove and then go to reach and turn the dial, visual area, optic nerve, visual area goes in. When I reach out, when I feel the nerve, the touch and feel, right? It's going to go to one area that's going to come to my primary somatosensory. And then when I smell, whatever I'm cooking, that's my olfactory nerve going to my olfactory. And every single behavior that you can link back, I'm telling you, that's how you really get these down. You're not going to have to bring the table with you. But if you really want to learn these for graduate school, wherever you're going next, your next classes, they're going to relate these back. You walking home, recognizing someone walking towards you, recognizing their gait, and as they get closer, recognizing their face. What part of the brain? One of your association areas, your posterior association area. But as soon as you recognize the person and you recognize you don't want to be around this person and you're in a dangerous, harmful position, what part of the brain is going to stir up an emotional? Yeah, your limbic association area. What specific structure of the limbic? The amygdala, right? Your amygdala is going to recognize that. Now, what division of your nervous system is going to stir up increased heart rate, rapid breathing? Yeah, your sympathetic division of your autonomic nervous system, right? And then when you're finally out of that situation, what structure of your, I'll ask you, what structure is going to help bring you back down to a parasympathetic state? What structure brings you back down to a parasympathetic state? Your hypothalamus, which is associated with what part of your what part of the brain is it associated with? Your hypothalamus. Diencephalon. That was a lot. That was a lot I just threw at you. But if you can do those types of things, you can apply these. That's when you know that you've really got it down. But I would say that is the bulk of exam number 2. What else? Questions? What else did I miss? I can do more practice questions if you want, but my brain is shutting down pretty soon. What else? What did I miss out on? All right. And I'm going to stick around because it's now 6:30. That's what I was aiming for there. I'm going to stick around to come up and ask more questions. Ask for if any of this is not make sense, please stick around and let's just do a one-on-one. And I'll walk you through whatever you want up here. All right, Zoom people, I'm going to stop the recording, but I'm going to keep this pulled up so you guys can ask questions in here as well.